In second place, Ron Fellows has got to try to stick with him, see if he can get him in the tight section of the course once again.
Inside the Petrov Honda, we watch the BMW getting away. Contact! The Petrov Honda goes right over and Ray lands right on his wheels.
Well, obviously there's no reason for this incident to happen because you're exiting 5B and there's plenty of room ahead to make the pass.
Ooh, let's just ride along with this one. He's airborne. Oh, boy.
What a lucky break to land on your wheels and even be heading up track.
You wouldn't
Incredible.
You wouldn't think the car's operating at this time, eh?
Starts off in first gear, seems to have some grip, and he's going along.
Says a lot for the Honda, that's for sure. I think everybody needs a little bit of a break now. We'll be back with more Firestone Firehawk action in just a moment.
Welcome back to round one of the Firestone Firehawk Endurance Championship from Mosport. Your pole sitter, John Cadman Jr. has led this thing except for a few brief laps under yellow. Figuratively speaking, John Cadman has a passenger in that car. That's Kirk Robinson, well known as one of the top Camaro preparation shops. Kirk Robinson's shop has been winning races in Firehawk since the get-go.
Certainly the fastest Camaro out on the circuit, the fastest car overall. He's made it look pretty convincing so far. There are still several laps to go, and Ron Fellows is not all that far behind.
Staying in contact with that battle for the lead is Lindsay Riddell in the Formula 99 car. He's having the drive of his life today, although he's a lap down because of some pit stops.
A newcomer for 1992 to the Firehawk Series, the BMW. They're really pushing that car hard to keep up with our race leaders as well.
Now we get back with John Cadman Jr. at the front of this thing. Dive bombing into 9 and through 10. John Cadman has a commanding lead. Don't see Fellows tucked in behind anymore.
John Cadman is opening up the same kind of lead we saw before the yellows came up. John has this one well in hand. If he can hold on, it's going to be pretty easy. Someone else who's done a great job, Scotty Maxwell in the Ford Taurus today. Leading the touring category right in behind Scott is Ian Phillips. Here comes Des Hockley in the number 16 CRX, second in touring.
Barry Smith in the number 93 Camaro overcooks it into 10. Ray, that's a fairly common place to go off.
Well, obviously there's a moment of inattention there. He kept the steering wheel going to the left, to the right rather, and lost it as if oversteering.
Well, now he's got to queue up and wait for a hole to get into. Looks like he may have some trouble getting that car running again. Hot motor, the ignition doesn't always work that way. Now he's getting direction from a marshal. The marshal on the tire wall will tell him when to go.
It looks as though he stalled the engine there. Here we go. He's going to try it again. This is going to be tough. He's actually pointing the wrong way into traffic.
Barry Smith is very carefully looking for a hole. He'll need to get in. Ray, this has got to be frustrating.
It sure is, because you're waiting for traffic and you don't want to create any mistakes.
Oh.
Now back underway and spins again.
Oh. The 26 car, Terry McDonald, did a great job to avoid that automobile in the middle of the track. She came around corner 10, right on the racing line, and found a car in the middle of it. Had no place to go except to the inside, and did a fabulous job avoiding that one.
And tucked back into the background was Phil Strudwick, just the other side of pit wall.
Off in 5, Craig T. does it, almost gets collected.
Another coat of paint on Larry Caruso's Porsche 944, and it would have been a collision.
Boy, riding inside with Craig T. Let's take another look. The mirror's off. That's a little bit of a distraction, and the car wants to go back onto the track.
And there goes Larry Caruso.
Boy, was that close. The marshal's doing a great job, as always, at our Firehawk races, directing people around the incident. Craig T. parks the car to the inside of corner number 5. We pick up Des Hockley running right behind the red Honda of Ian Phillips. That's the battle for touring, and right in between is the second place Porsche of Ron Fellows.
Ron Fellows mixing it up with these touring guys as he tries to cut through the traffic and get back into contact with John Cadman Jr.
This is going to turn into a good fight. Des looks to be just a little bit quicker than Ian out on the course. Des Hockley, the fastest qualifier in the touring class, running second place right now.
Now into turn 3, we see Scotty Maxwell, our sports class leader, go by. Now Ian Phillips, he's your touring leader. He goes by. How much farther is Des Hockley back in the track? There he is, Des Hockley in second place.
pretty well mixed out on the circuit. Keith Minkhorst in the Camaro goes by. David Ebrahim's Porsche. Gunther Schmidt in the Volkswagen Corrado in the sport category. And now John Shirk, another new for 92, the Acura for the first time out on the circuit.
Ray, it seems like this race has been taking a lot longer than it has. The cars are well spaced out. Everybody seems to be right in the middle of a groove.
That's right. At this time, everybody's pacing themselves and trying to reach the finish. The name of the game is to finish.
The Firestone Firehawk Endurance Championship. Round number 1 in Motorsport. The Franzak Porsche goes around in 10. It looks like a slippery place today.
Porsche driving instructor Hank Franzak got just a little loose at 10 and had to follow through with a spin. He's a little red-faced, right?
Yes, obviously at number 10, he knows the track quite well, so there must have been a little moment there.
Des Hockley now trying to find a way through Barry Smith to stay in contact with our touring class leader, Ian Phillips.
Nick Holmes dives to the inside into turn number 1 as we catch up to the Lacey Porsche.
John and David Lacey, a father and son combination, driving an identical car to Ray David and Rick Bye. The only thing that's different is that car has number 2 on the side.
And now we can see the distance from first to second in the touring category. Here it is, less than a car length now. Ian Phillips in the red Honda just in front of the CRX of Des Hockley.
Phillips and Hockley will be glad to get rid of Nick Holmes. He's better off in front of him than he is behind him as they get this battle sorted out.
And a battle it is, probably the best one on the circuit right now. Those two cars running nose to tail going up the big long straightaway.
Let's wait for them at the top of the straightaway and into turn 8. There they go, and Hockley's by.
A pass up the straightaway as Des Hockley takes over the touring lead. It was a great chase too, and Ian Phillips has fallen to second now. Up to the front side of the circuit as Des Hockley now gives chase to the Porsche just in front of them. Ian Phillips is trying to hold on as well.
This battle is not over yet. John Lacey trying to stay in front of these Hondas. He's got the horsepower. He overtook these cars on the back straight. All he needs to do is stay in front of him for one more lap, but John's going to let him by.
Yeah, obviously John is a newcomer to the racetrack, and he's acting very professionally and letting these people by.
Our sport class leader, Scott Maxwell, brings the silver Ford Taurus in along the pit straightaway. This is rather unusual. He pitted during our yellow flag, and now he's in again. I wonder if there's something wrong with the car.
Jim, we either have a problem with the car or he'll just need a little gas for a splash and go. More touring class battles as Jeff Lorman is doing his best to try to stay in touch with the 55 Nissan NX2000 of Richard Laporte and Pierre Desmarais.
Kind of an interesting racing line as John Cadman picks his way through some of the slower machinery through corner number 2, gets out in front and pulls out a little bit of a lead over the mostly touring pack in behind him, the exception being the sport class car of Terry DeFrancesco, the Toyota MR2 bunched in the middle.
We're over the hump now, and in the back part of our race, this is where the real guts of the thing come in. You've already got your groove, you're driving around as best you can, you're doing your best to stay in contact with the leaders, but the most important thing, Ray, is to finish.
Well, that's right. At this time, it's no longer a sprint race. The cars have been abused a little bit, and obviously what you're looking for is a good finish and be running at the finish.
So many different types of teams and drivers in the Firestone Firehawk Endurance Championship. We've got seasoned professionals like yourself and Rick Bye, the John Cadmans, the young, brash upstarts of the racing world. We've also got some rookies with very, very little experience. It's a wild mix out there. How do you stay safe?
Well, obviously the level of driving is quite professional, and so even though you have slower drivers or newer drivers, they're still performing extremely well. And obviously by the number of incidents or lack of incidents you've had on the track is demonstrating their level of proficiency.
Tom, the one thing that might be interesting for our viewers today, the fact that this is kind of an intermediate length race. This is a 2-hour contest for round number 1 here at Mosport, and that is by no means the longest race we have in the Firehawk Series this year.
Absolutely not, but it's not the shortest either. At the Molson Indy and at the Grand Prix of Montreal, Firehawk competition will take only 1 hour long. Those are very busy cars, and that's as much time as we can possibly get. From there, we go to Mont Tremblant for a 10-hour race, which should be about 1,000 kilometers, and then the 24-hour. After that, we go into the Twin 250s at Tremblant, then a 3-hour to cap off the season.
Well, obviously, for us, a 2-hour race or a 1-hour race brings about a different strategy than an 8-hour or 24-hour race. 1-hour race is tricky sprinting, 25 seconds pit stop, no fueling, no change of tires, so it's go, go, go. 24 hours, we want to take a slower pace, save the car. This is the most important thing, save the car.
The Firestone Firehawk Endurance Championship for 1992 has attracted some new cars as well. We've got some new folks out there represented this year.
Well, I'll tell you, we've never seen a BMW M5 before. That Beach Auto entry is really doing well. John Shirk is in with a new Acura Integra. He actually drove that car to the track yesterday, and he intends to drive it home. There's another new car, Terry DiFrancesco in behind there with a new Toyota MR2. These cars are fantastic cars. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cars, sponsored by McDonald's and Ford of Canada. These cars ran in the U.S. Firehawk Championship last year. CanCom Motorsport has brought them up into the country now, and they're competing in sports class in the Canadian version of Firehawk.
John Cadman, our race leader, as we approach the closing stages of this race. He's going to lead it almost wire to wire. The only competitor he's really had all day. Now entering turn number 5 is Ron Fellows in the Porsche 944.
Ron Fellows at this point has got to be content to sit back there and protect his second place position. Ray, you guys were second a lot last year and you won the championship.
That's right, but by finishing the race, at this moment in time, we're in third position. That's where we expect to finish.
Des Hockley leading in touring. Now in the sport category, it's Scott Maxwell. All 3 of our class leaders with pretty comfortable margins right now.
Scott Maxwell having an excellent run today. First time they've brought that car out to the track. He and crew chief Larry Holt were a little trepidatious about how this was going to go. At the end of the day, they've got to feel good.
I think there was a little concern earlier on that the Ford Taurus might run out of brakes here in the twisty circuit at Mosport, but it hasn't happened. Scott's driven a real nice, smooth race. John Cadman just in front of him through corner number 3, now into turn number 5. Has had this one well in hand. That is obviously the fastest car in Firestone Firehawk racing today.
Sports class leader Scott Maxwell had time to come in for a splash and go in the pits and still not lose his lead, so he's got a comfortable cushion. He's just going to run it out today and try to drive as smoothly as possible.
The second place overall, second in Grand Sport, Denon Porsche of Ron Fellows. He's driven a nice steady race. Gave John Cadman a bit of a challenge in the middle of our contest today, but he's going to have to settle for that second unless John breaks out on the circuit somewhere. Third in Grand Sport, Ray, and of course Rick Bye. Ray, what are your thoughts at this point in the race? It's almost over with. Are you kind of content? You're just motoring along, waiting for the checkered flag?
Well, Jim, we're keeping our fingers crossed. We never know whether the car will break down or not, and we're very nervous in the pits at that time.
Nobody taking a lot of very dire chances now as everybody's just going to try to run out to the checkered flag. Hockley's in a little bit more soup there than he'd like to be. He'd like to just comfortably run around, but he's got a couple of Firebirds or Camaros to deal with.
Coming through the final corner here at Mosport, the winner of round 1 in the Firestone Firehawk Endurance Championship, John Cadman in his Chevy Camaro.
A brilliant solo effort from flag to flag for John Cadman Jr.
About to take the checkered flag for the win in sports, Scott Maxwell brings the Ford Taurus around the final corners, and Des Hockley isn't far behind either. Des will be the winner in touring as they come down the pit straightaway toward the checkered flag. Scott Maxwell and Des Hockley.
Over 60 teams came out to Mosport to contest round 1 of the Firehawk Endurance Championship. All of them can put another good notch on their belts.
The DiFrancesco Primo team happy with the result today as well. We catch up to our race winners today for round number 1 here at Mosport. In Grand Sport, John Cadman with a victory. In the sport class, it was Scott Maxwell in his Ford Taurus. And of course, in touring, Des Hockley in his Honda CRX.
3 brilliant solo drives by our class winners. We'll be right back after this.
Is in the books here at Mosport as we watch the end of the victory parade. Our race winner, John Cadman, with a capital tool and die Chevy Camaro, bring the flag home. The winner in the sport class was Scotty Maxwell's Alcoa Ford Taurus, and the paintball Honda CRX of Des Hockley took home the touring trophy today.
We're here with touring class winner Des Hockley. Drove the whole race solo, managed to avoid the rain. Des, how did it feel?
Oh, it was a great race. We had that other red Civic in front of us after the yellow, and so I had to drive real hard to catch that guy. It was a good race.
Where did you catch him?
Oh, about half an hour to go. We were pretty comfortable in the end.
Fantastic. Des, is this the start of a championship season?
This is the first win of 7.
Tremendous.
Thanks, Tom.
We'll go over to the sports class winner, Scotty Maxwell, if you can follow me. Scotty Maxwell, the former Formula 2000 pilot, now driving a 4-door sedan, and rather quickly, I might add. Scotty, how did it go out there?
Fine. The Alcoa Racing team really set this car up. Multimatic did a great job. I can't ask for better. It's a great start, new team. We only can get better, and I'm happy.
Who was the biggest threat, do you think?
Well, I think the Ninja Turtle team initially, they obviously ran into some trouble, and then there was we had a stop and go, which added some anxious moments. But other than that, I think the Ninja Turtle team's the team to work out for.
Larry Holt told me you were screaming and yelling on the radio. You got really excited. What's the difference between this car and a Formula 2000 car?
Well, really, it's the races. We have to go a lot longer, and a lot of different elements come up. Like we got low on fuel, we had to sort of do a splash and go towards the end, and it got a bit tight, and we're getting a bit excited. We're happy.
Ready to do the champagne thing?
We'll try.
Firestone Firehawk Endurance Championship, first race in 1992, won by a Camaro. John Cadman drove solo. John, tell us about it.
Well, it was a long race. The car was on rails. The guys did a great job. I think the yellow came at the right time, and fortunately we took on left side tires, which helped the handling of the car. Took on fuel, and after that it was clear sailing. I think we built enough of a lead the first hour that all we had to do was drive smooth and stay out of trouble the last hour.
Ronnie Fellows was hot on your tail for a while. Did you see him in your mirrors at all?
Yeah, I saw him. Ronnie, his car was pretty quick through the corners, but I think he's got a few problems up the back straight. We were outpowering him as far as that goes.
First overall, and the winner in Grand Sport was John Cadman in the 76 Camaro. Ron Fellows in the 19 Porsche was second. And the team of Rick Pye and our co-host for today's show, Ray David, were third. Sports class was a battle of the Tauruses up front. Scott Maxwell in the 3-car was first. Paul Armstrong in the 34 Turtle car was second, and Gunter Schmidt and Alistair Rowe brought the 38 Corrado home third. In touring, it was Des Hockley in the 16 Honda CRX. Ian Phillips and Guy Smith teamed up for second place in the 70 Civic, and John Shirk with the Integra finished third. Be sure and join us next time at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal for the Formula One weekend round number 2. Ray, it's been great having you along with us. Thanks for coming by.
Well, the pleasure was mine. I'm looking forward to see you in Montreal.
Thanks, gentlemen. On behalf of Tom Natchew, I'm Jim Martin for the Firestone Firehawk Endurance Championship.
In the next episode of the Firestone Firehawk Endurance Series, we'll go to Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. Tune in for that Saturday, October the 10th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on TSN.